Saving the Russian people of the Donbas. That's how the Kremlin justifies its war in eastern Ukraine. The Kremlin's propaganda presents this region as an enclave of predominantly ethnic Russian or Russian-speaking people. It calls it a part of the so-called Russian world, with close ties to Greater Russia. In reality, however, ethnic Russians were never a majority in the Donbas. This industrial region was colonized and developed mostly by Ukrainians, along with many other ethnicities, and Russians were only one of them. An honest look at the history of the Donbas shows that the true causes of the war have little to do with ethnic issues. Instead, the Kremlin's propaganda exploited the region's unresolved social and economic problems, first to expand its influence and then to ignite the war. The Donbas region was practically uninhabited only a few hundred years ago. Only in the 17th century did the Ukrainian Cossacks start to establish small trade settlements and watchposts. Many of them later evolved into the key cities of Donbas, such as Slavyansk, Bakhmut, or Kramatorsk. During the large-scale Cossack rebellion, led by Bogdan Khmelnytsky, scores of peasants from central Ukraine moved east to escape the war. They established numerous towns and villages in today's Donbas. Some of the peasant colonists arise from Muscovite Tsardom. When the Russian Empire in the late 18th century seized this territory, numerous Greeks, Serbs, Bulgarians and Romanians also came to settle in the Donbas. In the 19th century, thanks to the discovery of immense mineral deposits, the Donbas quickly emerged as a huge industrial center. Thousands of workers migrated there from all across the empire in search of jobs at new factories and coal mines. Those poor and rapidly expanding workers' settlements eventually gave birth to the cities of Donetsk and Luhansk. The new settlers and imperial influences made Russian the dominant language in the region's urban areas. But in ethnic terms, Ukrainians were in the vast majority, up to 75% of the population in 1897. So after the fall of the Russian Empire, the victorious Bolsheviks included this industrial powerhouse in the newly created Ukrainian Soviet Republic. In Soviet times, communist propaganda glorified and glamorized the Donbas as a land of heroic coal miners and steel workers. This infused the Donbas with a regional pride and patriotism that Russian propaganda would exploit in the future. The ethnic structure continued to change as thousands of skilled technicians and workers from all across the Soviet Union headed for the Donbas to live and work in increasingly Russian-speaking cities. Ukrainian-speaking rural areas were also heavily depopulated during the Great Holodomor famine in 1932 and 1933. But even after decades of Soviet rule, Ukrainians were still in the majority of the Donbas. As of 2001, they accounted for up to 58% of the population, while Russians made up only 39%. However, following the fall of the Soviet Union, the Donbas went into severe economic decline. It quickly turned into Ukraine's Rust Belt, a depressed region suffering from unemployment and organized crime. Naturally, this provoked unrest and nostalgia for the glorious Soviet past, which was associated with modern Russia. The Kremlin's aggressive propaganda did its best to exploit these problems. It presented Russia as a much more stable, prosperous and strong state, as distinct from Ukraine, shaken by political and economic crises. This won considerable support for the invasion in 2014, both in the Donbas and Russia itself. But instead of the prosperous life promised by the Kremlin's TV news, the Donbas has been subjected to a destructive war that has claimed 10,000 lives and which continues with no end in sight.